Although the U.S. isn't the fastest growing country, with only about 1% growth, it is the highest in the industrialized world. After including net migration, the U.S. grows by about 2.7 million people each year. But the problem goes beyond these numbers.
If everybody worldwide lived American lifestyles, today it would take about close to 6 planets like Earth to regenerate all the resources we consume in the United States and to absorb the according waste. And that would be the entire planets, leaving nothing for other species. It's a model that is not globally replicable. Of course, some areas can use more than what their areas can regenerate because of trade, but not all countries can replicate this model of being net importers of ecological services. Just physically, mathematically, doesn't add up. The lifestyle of average residents in India could be replicated around the world, possibly even at a population size of about 8 billion people. But that means eating much, much lower on the food chain, with very little extra energy to either heat or cool houses or to drive cars around.
We've got to set an example and stop our own population growth if we're going to have any moral basis for lecturing to the people in other countries and say, you've got to stop your population growth.
The rich countries broadly rot, pointing to the poor countries and saying, the problem is population growth. You should get your populations under control. The poor countries saying, no, the problem is inequity, and you should get your overconsumption under control. So here this kind of fight goes on. The solution we have is, okay, grow like us. We have fetishized, we have worshipped, we have created an ideology out of growth that has now taken over our economic planning and development.
Our economy has grown highly dependent on people, or more precisely, on consumers. It always needs more to sustain its endless appetite for growth, and always manages to find more of us. We became its lifeblood.
The people who are promoting growth are the people who make the profits from it. You know, the one thing that people don't understand, and the developers like to hide, is that the growth never pays for itself. Your taxes have to go up to pay the cost of this growth.
Local officials still sort of see all growth as good. Research has shown that sprawl ends up costing more money than it will ever bring in. You know, you need more police and more parks and more fire departments and more schools and expanding the sewer system, another water treatment plant probably, more everything.
If the growth was paying for itself, there'd be money in the bank to pay for a downturn in the economy, to keep the state government going, but that hasn't happened. Everyone, the cities, the states, are all turning to the federal government to get money from the feds because the federal people don't have any responsible limit on the appropriations and on their budgets. And so what we're having then is essentially a Ponzi scheme in which you have people contributing every year, which goes to the benefit of a few people, but it means that the taxes have to go up for everybody.
Look at GDP, gross domestic product, gross national product, GNP. These measurements would actually be funny if the consequences weren't so serious. They include, as measures of economic health, activities that actually harm and even take life. Selling cigarettes, the medical bills, they're wonderful for GDP. An old stand of trees has no value until it's chopped down. And the fact that we can't breathe without it has no value.
That's the economist's view of the world. But if you talk to natural scientists, whether ecologists or meteorologists or biologists more broadly, or agronomists or hydrologists, and they see a very different world. They see a world where we're overshooting the Earth's carrying capacity in one area after another. We have a market that's dishonest. It's only covering part of the costs and the prices of goods and services. And we need to fix that. Otherwise, we will eventually face bankruptcy.
Biologists, chemists, and many other scientists believe that we can develop new sources of food and new kinds of food. They say the sea can give us more food, that we can develop large areas of new land. But many among these experts warn us that there are limits to the world's resources. There's only so much fresh water, so much timber, coal, oil, minerals of all kinds.
Julian Simon had a PhD in economics and business, and he was on the faculty at the University of Illinois and Department of Economics.
Julian Simon says that human beings are the ultimate resource. The more people you have, the more Einsteins you'll have to solve human problems. Well, you don't solve human problems by raising Einsteins in the slums of Lagos, Nigeria.
He wrote an article, and in this article he said, we have the knowledge and resources so that we can continue to grow for 7 million years. Suppose the world population grew just 1% per year, which is roughly the present rate of growth, for 7 million years. How large would the world population be? Now, that's a nice problem in arithmetic because you can't do it on a handheld calculator. It'll overflow.
He couldn't do the arithmetic to know that long before that, at any rate he could imagine, there would be more people than there are elementary particles in the universe. But it didn't make any difference.
People loved him in Washington. He was a high-level advisor in the White House. He was a high-level advisor in the Congress until the day he died.
When you're giving every human being on the planet a decent life, that is a full belly and good nutritious food, shelter, clothing, clean water to drink, health care, time for amusement, education for their kids, then tell me about what the advantages will be to having even more people. But until you're taking care of the people we have now, stop giving me this crap about how easy it will be to support more and more people.
The more that I learned about the population issue, I felt like I wanted to go to a place on our Earth where it's really a top issue. I was given the opportunity to go back to Africa with the film. You know, I work on children's rights issues, and the impact on children is enormous. Like, with that many children being born, how are their basic needs going to be met? Just walking out in the streets of Addis, and I stopped to give one woman who was begging a one-birr note, which is, worth, I don't know, not even 10 cents. And then more people started to come because they saw that I was giving money, and maybe larger increments than usual. And I just got surrounded by so many people who needed money. And